and welcome to a special episode of Up the Villa podcast. Firstly, if you're new to the channel, please drop the channel a like and subscribe, as it really does help. I am pleased today to welcome Warwickshire and England all-rounder, Ashes winner, double World Cup champion, and the player of the series from this summer's Ashes, and a man regarded as, and I can confirm this, one of the nicest men in cricket. And he loves the Ted Spuds as well. So, Chris, the Wizard Woakes, welcome.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me on. That's a
That's
nice welcome. That's a nice welcome.
That's
Cheers.
right. It's been a long time coming, mate. We've been trying to get you on for about 12 months, and you've been keep buggering off playing cricket all over the world.
I know. The day job gets in the way, doesn't it? But I'm glad that I've been able to finally get on. Obviously, I did say I'd get on, and then I felt bad because it had been so long, mate. But what a time to come on, though. We've picked a good time, I reckon.
That's it, mate. We've waited till the peak moment to get you on. You know, I suppose you did that. You was a little bit busy in the summer with the Ashes, but we'll get on to cricket in a bit. I thought we'd start with your one true passion, like mine, Aston Villa. So, first question, Chris, is: are you looking forward to Villa winning the Premier League?
Mate, I'm trying not to talk about it. Honestly, it's one of them that you don't want to jinx it, but like every time at the minute, obviously we're doing really well, we're playing well, we're winning. And it's just like, we can't, can we? Can we?
I think we can. You know, we talk about it a lot, obviously, on the pod. And we're at a point now, I think, with Villa, and I don't know how you feel about it, is that you almost look more stupid if you don't say we can win it now, because we are now universally regarded as a very, very good side. So are you enjoying, obviously, watching currently at the moment, watching the side? You're obviously, I'll just tell everyone, you are currently in the West Indies playing for England cricket. So are you managing to catch up with the games over there?
Yeah, so I managed to watch the. I arrived on I think it was on the Friday night, and we just had the City game on the Wednesday, which I managed to go to, which was amazing. And then I flew out on the Friday, arrived late on the Friday, and obviously we played Arsenal on the Saturday, and managed to get a hold of the Villa game in a sports bar, and again just couldn't really believe what I was watching. Obviously, very different performance, wasn't it, compared to
absolutely,
the City. But again, to beat those two in the space of a week was just incredible. So yeah, I've been trying to keep hold of it. Obviously, keep an eye on the games. Yesterday, I followed the. We flew from. Where did we fly from? We flew from Grenada to Trinidad yesterday, whilst the first half was up. And as soon as we landed, I was like, get my phone on, check the score. And then obviously we conceded in that at the end of the first half. But what a turnaround again, second half. I followed it on Sky Sports app, and just amazing, really. It sounded absolutely utter chaos that second half yesterday, but finding ways to win, which is just brilliant.
Is there any City, Arsenal, or like other fans in the group? I'm not sure. I was trying to think earlier.
In this one day group, there's Moeen Ali's a big Liverpool fan. So, but then also he probably wouldn't say it out loud, but his second team would probably be Villa, with him being a Birmingham lad.
He's got to be being a Bear, hasn't he?
Yeah, exactly. So he's quite enjoying seeing Villa do well, but he's not shouting about it too much, obviously. But there's. I
was just thinking, is it nice having like bragging rights for once? Like being a Villa fan within the
honestly,
group.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's so nice to be able to, be in that conversation for a change. But there's not many glory hunters, to be fair. There's a few United fans, there always is, isn't there? But they're not even in the equation at the minute, mate. To be brutally honest.
Did you take your Villa top out with you? Have you been wearing it for breakfast? Doing the good old British thing.
I tell you what, the amount of Villa shirts that I've seen out here is a joke.
Really?
To be fair, we're well. We always get around, don't we, as brothers? So it's been nice to see a few Villa shirts being worn out in the Windies,
Yeah, it's nice. I think it just shows the growth of the club, really, because that's obviously an aspiration for the club, is to be a worldwide brand now. And so for you to be saying like Villa shirts are popping up all over the West Indies, then it just shows that the Premier League is a massive thing, isn't it, all over the world? So if we can continue where we go in this pathway, then we're only going to grow and grow, aren't we?
Absolutely.
How did you first start following the Villa, Chris? Because I know you're a local lad to sort of Coalfield area and Birmingham area. Is it a family thing or?
Yeah, that's it. My dad, really, mate. To be honest with you, my dad was a Villa fan from a very young age, and I kind of had no choice. There was no other option really in the house. It was like I was given I was given, I think it was 92, 93 season. I was given the kind of yearly, annual sort of videotape, VCR sort of as a Christmas
Yeah.
present. And I watched that on repeat for years, mate. And that's all I remember. I just remember Daly Atkinson's goal. Was it against, it was Wimbledon, against Wimbledon.
I was at that game.
With the umbrella. Were you at that game?
Yeah.
With the umbrella.
I was at that game, yeah, in the stand. Funny
you weren't the one
story.
running off umbrella, were you?
No, that chap who ran on with the umbrella, we was at the next away game. I think it was Sheffield Wednesday away, myself and my brother, and he was sat behind us. And he was the miserably sod I ever, honestly. We was all standing up trying to watch the game, and he kept saying, "Sit down." But some iconic games in that sort of
I just remember I just remember watching that video on repeat for years and until I finally got down to Villa Park. But yeah, my old man was a big Villa fan and used to jump over the wall and get in for the final 20 minutes of games and stuff down at Villa Park. So I had no choice, mate, which is nice.
Fair play. So being obviously a top sportsman that you are, I know you won't blow your own trumpet, so I'll blow it for you. Being one of the best cricketers, we've had for many, many years and for such a prolonged period. I know that the lads I went to school with that were good sportsmen were very good at other sports. And I know, if I've got this correct, you actually was a trainee with Walsall as a winger, was you?
That's right, true? Mate. Yeah, that's right. I mean...
so how close was you to a footballing career and what made you choose the cricketing pathway?
I mean, to be honest, I love... I mean, football's still my passion, mate. Honestly, it really is. I love watching the Villa and love watching any football, to be fair. But as a kid, football was number one, and then cricket kind of came second until I was about probably 13, 14. I started getting better at cricket and got offered onto the academy at Warwickshire. And at the time, I was on Walsall's books as well, playing football. And I don't know, I just got... Say again.
Was you a tricky winger or fullback?
Yeah, well, to be fair, I was always a centre midfielder, and I then got pushed out into the wing. Yeah, like Dougie Louise or a Boubacar Kamara, but it just, I don't know. I just my cricket was going a lot better at that age, and my football, I probably didn't grow as quick as some of the other lads, and was getting a bit bullied on the field, to be fair, from a football perspective. So it was a fairly easy decision for me, and I just went down the cricket route. And I look back at it now and think my old man was so good with it, because obviously, you do get a lot of pushy parents, don't you, when it comes to sport.
Yeah.
But my dad was great. He kind of just said, "Look, the decision's yours. We'll back you whatever you want to do." And I pushed the cricket side of things, and I just felt like it was a weight off my shoulders. And my old man always says, he said, "When you said that to me, he said, I knew you'd make the right decision." So the rest is history, mate.
And that's how it's turned out, isn't it? You've done all right in your cricket career. Yeah. I think it was a good ball.
I wouldn't change it now, that's for sure.
No. So going back to sort of your early days following the Villa, what can you remember your first time you went down Villa, and like what was your favourite sort of team and an era of going down?
Yeah, I've still got a big passion for my teenage years, because obviously I was there religiously. I had a season ticket throughout probably from when I was about 15 through to 18, which was kind of a turnover. It was mainly Martin O'Neill era, but prior to that, my first experience down at Villa Park was I'd have only been about 6 or 7, maybe 7 or 8. I remember the game vividly. My uncle took me down, and I think I was just more interested in the shouting from the crowd, the swear words, all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Standard kid.
But I remember that.
Don't tell your mum when you get home.
Exactly that. And I remember the game. It was Derby County at home, roughly 96, 97, and Julian Choachim and Dwight York, I think, scored our goals. And I think from that moment, from seeing Villa Park up, close and personal, it was just kind of that moment that kind of... at that moment, I knew I was going to be a Villa fan for the rest of my life. Just walking out and seeing Villa Park.
I totally get it. Once I think you get somebody into the stadium and they haven't properly had an allegiance to a club, and then that atmosphere and the teams walk out and you experience it, I think it's very hard to not fall in love, isn't it? And like you're like me, not many people, that once you've got that love, it's very hard to sort of stay away from it. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, there's been so many. You look over the years, and I'm guessing you'll be similar, but you kind of... There's so many eras that you kind of go through, don't you, with different managers and different players.
Yes,
it's hard to nail down one. But there is something. I did love that era through of Martin O'Neill. And then I really loved, although we weren't a great side, we obviously being down in the Championship, but I loved Dean Smith being in charge, with him being a local boy, and that kind of hits home, doesn't it? The fact that he kind of managed to get us back in the Premier League and where we belong, I suppose. But yeah, and now obviously the Emery era is just, I mean, at the minute, obviously we're on a massive high, but the way it's going, I can only see success for the club, which is amazing.
Yeah, I'm with you really. Dean, I mean, I'll go back to Graham Turner and Graham Taylor was my first sort of era, but I do agree that the Dean Smith era was the spark that reignited the club. That was needed very much so now, and and even looking back to when we lost the playoff final against Fulham, that now has become a huge turn. In fact, 2 games against Fulham, that the playoff final loss, and then the drubbing that Gerrard had in his last game against Fulham. 2 really critical games. But I would echo what you're saying. Really, Dean Smith will always be regarded for me as a Villa sort of manager of huge regard. So who would be your favourite player?
Yeah, if I had to single
we've all
out
got
one,
the obvious ones, but
if I had to give one, and this is just, again, I was just a massive fanboy at the time, but Juan Pablo Angel was my favourite.
Luke will absolutely love you. He's absolutely on board with Juan Pablo Angel, honestly.
I absolutely loved him. Like, genuinely had posters of him on my wall and stuff, which is a bit embarrassing, but literally loved him.
Not at all. Have you not seen behind me?
Yeah, but I had, who else was one of my favourite? Martin Larsson, Olaf Melberg. I had Dwight York. He broke my heart when he went to United. I had York 10 on the back of my shirt, and I remember being on the summer holidays, and I was getting abuse from like other lads for saying, "Oh, he's not a Villa anymore. How do you feel wearing that on your shirt and stuff?" And I was like, it ruined me. But he was a big Villa legend as well for me. So just because I think when I first started watching, he was there. And obviously was one of our big players. But those are the names really which stand out. Who's yours? Just who's your favourite?
I mean, I have to still say Paul McGrath. I mean, that's just because of the absolute legend that I've met him a couple of times, lucky enough to go to when he does talks and stuff. But I loved Sid Cowens. As a player, was just ridiculous. There's been so many, to be honest. And what's nice now is a lot of the younger fans that haven't really experienced the highs of even back to sort of the early '90s when we won the 2 League Cups. They're now starting to see what Villa can be, challenging up the top. When I was a kid, this was regular for us. We was regularly in the top 6 of the Premier League, and we were better than Arsenal, better than Chelsea. Chelsea wasn't even thought about when I was a kid. So to see the revival, and now I can definitely see the players that we've got now are going to be legends of Aston Villa. You can see so many of them; they're so good.
I mean, you can imagine. I was just going to say, can you? Like being a young lad now coming to Villa Park and seeing this for the first time, it's just what a time to be coming into like being a Villa fan and being born into this era.
Totally agree. Yeah, I mean, my next sort of question was last season when Gerrard went and Emery came in. What were your sort of thoughts about him when he got the job? Did you know much about him? Was you sort of prepared for well, I don't think any of us were prepared for what would happen after that. But what was your thoughts when we appointed him and sort of going the first sort of 6 months of last season?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly didn't obviously anticipate how we're playing at the minute and where we are in the league and stuff. But only good things were obviously said about him in terms of his record, and there was a lot of talk around him taking teams that were kind of at Villa's level and kind of making them better, which obviously boded well for us. I was still a little bit kind of just a bit shell-shocked as to where we were with Gerrard, because we just didn't really have any character, did we? We didn't have any sort of a philosophy or identity or anything.
Absolutely,
it was just a bit nothing. But which is a shame, because I mean, Gerrard as a player for me at my age growing up, he was one of legends of football, and was kind of desperate for him to do well, but it clearly didn't, and he had to move on. And I'm glad the owners, which we are very lucky to have as well, aren't we? Should be speaking a lot about them, how good they've been as well.
Absolutely.
But Yeah, I don't think I could anticipate the way it's gone. I think it was always going to be a better move and a move in the right direction, but just couldn't anticipate, mate, for him to have had the 12 months that he's had. And I mean, what a man! Literally, what a man! I just love him.
It is.
Absolutely love
It
him.
is ridiculous. Just going on to that, is there any sort of crossovers with sort of Warwickshire and Villa players? Do you know any of the players, and do you hear any sort of things going on about how they feel and the players are feeling about what's going on and the way they're talking about the sort of the manager and the club now?
Yeah, I don't, to be honest with you, Justin. I actually don't have any sort of like, inside gossip to the dressing room or know any players that well. I know Jacob Ramsey went to the same school as me, so
Yeah,
kind of, in the modern world, I'm kind of social media friends with him, so to
yeah, yeah,
speak.
yeah,
Similar with Jack, actually. I did an interview with Jack before in the season that he's probably his last season with Villa.
yeah.
So again, I wouldn't say I'm close to these guys,
No,
but kind of know them and would say hello, sort of thing. But um, I think just from what I've heard, and it's more through the grapevine. You've probably heard just as much as me. It's just more
yeah.
on. I think the players are kind of realised that they're building this sort of togetherness, and also it's more like I suppose that they're happy to go through the hard yards. They're clearly being coached. Do you know what I mean? Like as a group of professional
Yeah.
players, they're being coached, which is still, I think, and I'm talking from a professional cricketer's point of view here, not footballers, but when you
Yeah.
get a manager or a coach that comes in and has a clear sort of conviction as to how he wants to play, you buy into it, and it's clear that the players are bought into what Emery wants to do, isn't it? Which is, I think, as a
Well,
manager, is the hardest thing to do. I think is to get players to
massively.
buy.
Yeah. Sorry, Chris, to cut over you. What
Sorry.
we'll go on to talk about cricket in a bit, but one of the things that I noted towards the end of last season was the impact that Unai Emery had on the team. Because if you look, essentially, he inherited that team, and he had his one or two, didn't he, players in January, and he got the most out of that bunch. Now you look at the transformation in the Test team
Yeah,
when
yeah,
McCullum and Stokes took over,
yeah,
which was essentially the same team that hadn't won
yeah,
in, what was it, 15, one winning
yeah.
15
I
Test
think we
matches
had
going
one in 15 or 17 or something like that.
up to when we played in the West Indies and Joe decided to step down.
Yeah,
And then we get a new coach and a new manager, and they just went in with this brand new, fresh, clear identity of how to
yeah,
play. And that's not knocking the previous Test, Silverwood. And it just sparked and it went, and it was all
yeah,
everybody bought in immediately. So the parallels between what happened at Villa with Emery and what happened with the Test side and
yeah,
Brendan McCullum. Would you agree with that? Would you agree with that? Obviously, you
yeah,
played in that one side, so you're
yeah,
probably
yeah.
best to
There's
serve
some
to sort of comment.
there's some clear sort of, I suppose, crossovers, definitely. The way Brendan and Stokesy come in, and I think it's the character of the pair that kind of, because it takes balls and take guts to be able to go into
Massive,
a group of players and say, right, this is how we're going to play. We're going to stick to it. We're going to give it a good go at it. Um, and it's easy to, and naturally as human beings, it's easy to sit on the safe side, isn't it, and not have too much risk. Sit on the cautious side of things. And unfortunately, that's where we got to. I think as a team, we were just being too cautious, too safe.
yeah,
And Brendan and Stokesy with that's the way they are as characters, live life on the edge sort of thing. It's like
just a bit,
we're going to play this way, we're going to stick to it, we're going to buy into it. If you don't want to do it, you're not going to play. Simple as that.
yeah,
And I think it meant that not only the guys were willing to buy in, they were also told that they were going to give players a good go at it as well. In
yeah,
terms of a selection point of
yeah,
view,
yeah.
you're going to get consistency in selection. You're not going to get dropped after a couple of bad performances. We realise this might take a little while to come good.
Well,
I don't
they
think
took
they put.
failure. They took failure out of the. I'm not saying it was failure is not probably not the right word, but what they said was if you did fail in one or two or three innings, you wasn't going to
Yeah,
be forget
yeah,
about it. And
yeah,
I think Emery sort of did that when he first came in. A lot of mistakes were made because we changed the philosophy and the way we played out from the back, and we saw, I'm sure you was at Villa Park many times when he first arrived, and everybody was worried to death when the ball was getting played around the back and the odd pass went astray and we conceded from it. Yeah, but Emery decided that this is the way we play, and he backed his players after the game. This is how we're going to play. They're going to get used to it, and they adapted very, very quickly. Would you agree as well?
Totally agree, mate. I think that's the most impressive thing for me is how he's taken a group of players that were clearly probably, a little bit lacking a bit of confidence, weren't playing, great football under Gerrard, and then kind of took hold of, as you said, pretty much the same 11, and clearly coached them a different way of playing, which I just, you have to admire it, don't you? Because like you said, there's times where you thought, God, is this going to work? It doesn't look great. We're conceding goals where you're trying to play it from the back, and to be able to stick to that and stick to your guns and have the balls to continue to play it, and also trust the players to be able to kick on and improve.
Yeah,
that's something special, and I think it shows that clearly he's a good technical coach and can develop people's skills, but also as a man manager, he's obviously doing something right as well.
Absolutely. So before the season started, what were your sort of hopes before we kicked the ball? What was I predicted third at the start of the season on our pod.
Did you?
That's looking like a good prediction at the moment. What were your thoughts before we started?
Yeah, you've shot for the stars there, haven't you? It's going well.
Well, I said 7th last year and I got that right, so I'm hoping I'm going to be pretty close this year.
Well, I sat on the fence, really. I said, with us being in this European competition, I thought if we finished anywhere near where we did last year, it would be a good result. And
it's fair, I think.
Yeah, I think majority would have probably said fair as well. But you get to this point of the season now, don't you, where we've, we're not far off Christmas and we're sat joint second. It's like, oh, where can we finish? I really do hope it could be a year like Leicester had. But
no one wants to say the L word, do they?
I know. Who knows? We can always hope.
Absolutely. So next thing is, what are your hopes for the rest of the season? What do you think this team can achieve?
Yeah, well, I think there's two camps, isn't there? And I'm probably sat in not the camp that you are, Justin. I know you'll be in the camp where it's like
I'm the glass 3/4 full camp.
Yeah, it could be the year that it happens, and it's a Leicester season, or I'm looking at it kind of maybe a bit more from a realist point of view and thinking, if we could finish in the top 5, would be a incredible achievement. Obviously, top 4 would be amazing with Champions League football. I mean, I just dream of that song being played at Villa Park on a Champions League night. You look at what Newcastle are doing at the minute and having those goosebumps nights with PSG, Dortmund, Milan. The thought of getting in a group with, obviously we've got to get there first, but getting in a group with like Real Madrid or something like that and seeing them at Villa Park would just be unbelievable. And something which I didn't think would ever happen, really, in my lifetime as a Villa fan.
No, I probably agree with you, to be honest, especially looking back 6-7 years ago when we were sort of championship side.
Exactly.
So if I had to nail you, if I had to nail your to the mass now, where do you think we're going to finish?
I think we're going to.
I won't hold you to this. I won't hold you to this.
I think we're going to finish 4th. We're going to get in the top 4. That's my.
I'll take 4th.
That's my prediction.
And can we win one of the cups as well? Do you think?
I think we can. I still think we can win that Conference League. I really do. I think getting through that group stage is probably. I'm not saying it's the hardest thing, but in terms of the amount of games you play in that period of time, we're hopefully through that harder bit from that point of view. I really think that we got a chance. But there obviously is a couple of good teams in that comp, but I think we can still win that as well. I do. I think we can finish 4th and win that.
What I didn't tell you was I predicted 3rd, and we're going to win the FA Cup and the Conference League.
Oh, bloody
imagine now if that happens. If that happens and I haven't put a bet on it, I'm going to be gutted. I was thinking this morning, if I haven't put a bet on that, I'll be gutted.
The odds you'd have got on that accumulator would be ridiculous.
So the next question is, I'm putting you in the manager's seat now. January's approaching.
Yeah.
Do you buy anyone? And if you do, where do we strengthen?
I mean, the
who it needs.
obvious one is, I think the obvious one's up top, isn't it? If we lose Ollie, we're going to be, we are going to be struggling. And that's
Yeah,
nothing against Duran, but for him to lead the line and Watkins not to be around would be hard work, and would
regularly. Yeah,
certainly
I agree. Yeah,
not be a stronger team. But then also, who do you go out and get in January to fill that void? How
oh
do you
yeah,
get a player that you pick up, and whether it costs you a fortune or not is they're going to probably if they're going to cost you a fortune, they're going to want to start.
yeah,
And then if you get someone who's not going to be willing to start and is happy to start on the bench, they're not probably going to be that good. So
no,
it's a really tricky situation, I think, for Emily. But I think we just need to go and strengthen with a couple of players, whether that be midfielders
the
and
depth of the
defenders,
squad. You mean?
just so you've got depth, and
Yeah,
you've got a bench
yeah,
that you
yeah,
can rely on. Because there is no doubt. I mean, you look at what happened on Sunday. We're going to have a couple of suspensions and things. That's
yeah.
when you start wearing thin, don't you? And then you're only an injury away from looking depleted. So just
Yeah,
I just think numbers. I just think we need numbers. It doesn't really matter where they
no,
are.
I would totally agree with you. You know your stuff, Chris. I'm never in doubt, to be honest. But it's basically what we've been saying. The squad was creaking on Sunday. With a couple of
Yeah,
players out
yeah,
injured, a couple of players suspended. With obviously the long-term injuries added into that as well. So
yeah,
I think quality depth players. I think Longley has been a good addition squad-wise, and I think
yeah,
Zaniolo, while he's been a bit hit and miss, I do
yeah,
wonder whether maybe another loan, if we can do that, can come in.
yeah.
But yeah, I
I
think
think
if we can do a big deal, they will. But apart from that,
yeah,
it's squad depth, isn't it?
yeah, absolutely. I think those and like
And
Zaniolo's
keeping
not,
everyone fit.
not. Yeah, absolutely. Which so far they've done pretty well at. Obviously, they must be doing well behind the scenes on that front. I can only say from what and Premier League football teams are at a whole new level compared to what we are as an England cricket team. But the kind of the resource that they've got to look after
Yeah.
players and recovery side of things is just on a whole new level. So I'm sure they're literally doing everything they possibly can from that side of things. And I'm sure it's another
Have you
thing
been
which
to the
Emery
training
would not
ground?
leave. So I have been to Bodymore Heath a few times. I actually used to know Alan
Yeah.
Smith, who was a physio for a long time.
Physio, yeah.
And unfortunately left a couple of years ago. I think it was when Gerrard came in, actually. I think he moved
Yeah.
him on, which was a shame because he'd been there for years and knew him really well. And he got us down to use facilities occasionally and stuff. But I haven't been since they've kind of done the rebuild. So it's supposed to be pretty epic down there now.
Have you been to the under-23 pitch yet? That's a fantastic
Is that?
on
No, I
Friday
haven't.
night. Well, when you come back, I'll get you a
Yeah.
ticket and we'll go down if you fancy it and watch the
Yeah. Yeah, I'd
under-23s.
love
It's
to,
a
yeah.
lovely stadium too.
Yeah.
It's got like one stand along the side, but the facilities are
Nice.
ridiculous, to be honest.
Yeah, just a whole new level, isn't it?
So I've finished the football chat for a bit and we'll get on to a bit of
Yeah.
cricket chat, my second
Okay.
love, if you like.
Yeah.
And I've got a little bit of a reveal here. Look, this is for
Oh,
the second
nice.
half.
Love it.
Second half of the chat.
Quality. Love it.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I've been looking today at what to ask you, and I've got about 17,000 cricket questions. So most of them I'll have to leave
Fire
till you
away.
next come for a spud, to be honest. But I'm just going to go over the main ones that I think, because obviously we're a football podcast, but I know there's a lot of cricket fans that sort of watch us and follow me on Twitter as well that would be interested to hear some of this. So the most obvious one, what I'm going to say first, 2019 World Cup final. The greatest game of cricket I've ever had the privilege of watching.
Yeah.
I went to a few games in that tournament. I went to the semi-final at Edgbaston when you helped obliterate the Aussies, which is always lovely to see. So the final, what was it like? Just talk to me about that final. What the hell was that like? That experience like?
In the semi-final,
we could do it just for. Sorry, Chris. Sorry, just to cut over for 1 second.
Yeah.
For people that don't follow cricket, I could talk for, and I'm sure Chris could talk for about 6 hours about this one game. So how he's going to sum up this game? Go away and look at it, and if you don't know about it, but sorry, Chris, go on.
No, incredible game of cricket, wasn't it? I mean, if I had the opportunity to replay the semi-final or the final again, I'd 100% choose the semi-final because it was just a lot less stress. A lot less stress. I mean, just comfortably the most stressful I've ever been, mate. To be honest with you, a match point of view. Naturally you're going to be nervous in a World Cup final, and once you get in the game, kind of it looks after itself. It's another game of cricket, and you get on with it. But just the way it kind of come to a close, mate, and no one could have ever written that script. If you'd have written that script pre-game, everyone would have laughed you off and just said, yeah, whatever, not in a million years. And it's not just how the game sort of panned out from a scorecard point of view. It's the way it unfolded, wasn't it? With Stokesy getting caught on the rope.
All the little
and
things.
Caught
When
on
it
the
hit his
rope,
bat, it went for
stepping
the
on the rope,
overthrows.
hitting his bat, going for 4. The super over, down to the last ball. Just, we were all, I think all the players will agree. Although you're in the zone and you kind of get on with it.
Yeah.
It was comfortably to be the most stressful any of the lads have been in terms of being on the pitch. So amazing to be a part of. Just grateful that we managed to get over the line, because I don't know how we'd have come back from that had we not
No,
won.
I feel
so
sorry for. Yeah. I feel so sorry for New Zealand. One of my favourite teams, cricket teams. They always seem a fantastic bunch of blokes. I love Kane Williamson. He's such a magnanimous bloke. What he said after that game, you've got to hold your hands up and say fantastic. But I sat and watched it on my settee, and I went from we've won it, we've lost it, we've won it, we've lost it, we've won it, we've lost it. So the only other question about that I've got to ask you, and I think I probably know the answer to this, but was you ever in the conversation to bowl the super over? And would you have done it if they'd have asked you to?
Yeah, I always get asked this question, Justin. So it's a weird one, because had I obviously been asked to bowl it, obviously I would have bowled it. Absolutely, no question about it.
That's your forte, though, isn't it? Death bowling.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Opening bowling. Yeah.
Had Jofra not come into that side, I'm pretty sure Morgs would have knocked me on the shoulder and gone, "Well, so you're bowling it," and I'd have been absolutely fine, no worries. Of course, you'd be nervous, whatever. It is what it is, but I'd 100% agreed to do it. But was I relieved when he tapped Jofra on the shoulder? Absolutely, mate. Absolutely.
Where do you want me to field? I'll just go and stand over there.
Yeah, precisely that. And I'm more than happy to say there was definitely some relief there, because credit to Jofra, he bowled an over, which was great. Obviously it went down to the wire, but naturally as a player, and this comes with the job. You always obviously think of what could happen in terms of success, and it could come off well. But you naturally think about the bad side of things as well. And just delighted that Jofra got us over the line, because for a young lad to step up and do that was pretty special as well.
But by the barest of margins.
By the barest of margins. What a bit of commentary that was as well.
Honestly, I've got that on a T-shirt upstairs. I bought it. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I got so much to ask you, but we'll just see how time's going. Again, that year, Headingley, August, Ashes, you're in the team when, I'm going to say it, probably the best test innings of all time happens.
Absolutely.
Ben Stokes, 135 not out, with Super Leachy on the other side.
Got his specs on.
What was that like, sitting in the dressing room? Was you all sitting in your lucky positions? Did you not dare to move?
Pretty much, mate. All I can recall about that sort of last half an hour or so was kind of, I got in a routine of walking up to the viewing area in between balls, back down to watch the actual delivery on the TV. There was a few of us in the dressing room. There was me. Who else was there? God, I can't remember now. I think Jimmy was there. Me, Jimmy, and another was just like kind of sat in the same position in that dressing room, watching it unfold. And I mean, once I got out and obviously come back in, and getting out is never a nice feeling. You come back in, you sit down, you spot, and you're just like, what the hell's just happened, sort of thing. I've either played a bad shot or you've got a good ball or whatever it is. The emotion most of the time is still the same, as if to say, God, I wish I could have done this or I could have done that. And you'd still be out there. And it's always much better. Out in the middle than
that's what I was going to say. Yeah, can you remember how many we needed when you went in? Because it was about 75, I think, when Leachy was in.
I think when Leachy went in, it was about 70 odd. So I'm hazard a guess. When I was in, it was probably about
100 odd.
Yeah, roughly.
And when you went out to bat, you obviously must have thought, right, I'm gonna be the man that's gonna, because
Yeah,
I think Leach is on record as saying when he got to the middle, Stokes was just glazed over,
yeah,
and he
just
just
glazed
sort of
over. Yeah,
went, "I'll just let you crack on, boss, and you crack on
yeah,
with it." Was he like
pretty
that when
much.
you went out? Was he just like
Um,
zone? I'm in the zone. I've never known a player like Ben Stokes for being in the zone when he's on it.
Yeah, I think when I went out there, he was kind of still probably pretty chilled. I think he was kind of at that point he wasn't going bananas, if that makes sense. He was still kind of
Yeah,
batting
yeah, yeah.
fairly sensibly, going
Yes.
about his business, building his innings, sort of thing. And it wasn't until we kind of lost a couple quick ones until he started kind of putting the accelerator down and playing the way he does when he just goes nuts and plays the most outrageous shots. And that's when he kind of gets in the zone. His eyes go, and he's just kind of purely in the moment and focused. But for him to do what he did that day, honestly, is remarkable. And I always look back at it and think, what an innings, incredible. But some of the shots that he played during that innings, kind of probably the shots that actually go on a little bit unnoticed, because obviously he hit loads of sixes, but some of the fours that he
Yeah,
hit down the ground, and
yeah.
not many players. In fact, there's actually no players can play shots like that. And you got
No.
to remember, this was against the Aussies. This was against Stark, Hazelwood,
Yeah, yeah,
Cummins, Nathan Lyon. Probably the
yeah.
best bowling attack that's graced the Test game in the last 15 years, 10 years. So just remarkable what he did that day.
And
Literally incredible.
the way he was farming the strike and taking
Yeah,
twos, and well, he was dealing in twos, fours, and sixes, wasn't he?
yeah. He was just
So so
taking the mick
so
out of the best attack in the world.
which is always lovely to see, especially when it's
Yeah,
Australia. I can say
exactly.
that. So would you say if that was the best Test innings of all time, the Jack Leach one not out was the second best Test innings of all time?
Comfortably the best one that out I've ever seen. Put it that
The
way.
best one not
Definitely.
out of all time,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's more the fact that it was Leachy, the way he goes about his business. He's got his
Just kept
glasses on.
feeding his glasses, yeah,
He's giving his glasses
winding
a
them
wipe.
up,
It just, I think, just added to the theatre, didn't it? It
yeah.
was amazing.
So moving on to 2022, your second
Yeah,
World Cup win. Australia played every game in that competition.
yeah,
Probably the highlight for me, the final was, I think, a pretty comfortable win, wasn't it? As it turned out, but
yeah,
the semi final, the Butler Hales
yeah.
170,
Onslaught.
just again, you must feel so lucky. Not only have you contributed to some of the most iconic moments of British English cricket, but you've
Yeah,
also sat in the dressing room and had the best view of a lot of
yeah,
these
yeah,
iconic moments, and you get to welcome these players back in. I
yeah,
mean, to just sit there and watch them demolish India
yeah,
again, probably one of the best, as they proved, up until the final this time, one of the best one-day sides in the world apart from England.
yeah.
Just ridiculous.
Yeah, that's up there with one of my favourite games of cricket as well, especially from a T20 perspective. I think to take on India, who regardless of where you're playing them, they're generally always favourites. They kind of own the
Yeah,
T20 game, don't they? Because of the
yeah.
IPL, and they've got such fantastic players. Like they are just on the depth they have and the quality of players they have, particularly from a batting perspective, is just on a whole new level. And we knew we could beat them because we feel we could beat anyone in the world. Like we're that sort of team that know that on our day we'll beat anyone. And that confidence is there. But you just always know that India are probably the best. And we knew on that day, everyone was thinking, you got to win the toss and bat first. And it was the perfect scenario for us. We knew what we wanted to do. We had a game plan. It was to win the toss, bowl, because we knew that
Yeah.
actually their top order are a bit conservative in terms of T20 cricket,
They
and we
like to
knew that
bit old-fashioned, isn't it?
yeah, they liked, and they changed it this World Cup when we played
Yeah,
in the recent World Cup. But in history and tradition, it's they kind of like to get themselves
yeah.
in and then build up for a big
Keep
finish.
wickets in the hutch, yeah.
Yeah, and we knew that if we kept them to what we did, which was between probably 160 and 180, we could easily chase it down with the team that we had. Whereas if we'd have batted first and got 200 or 210,
Yeah,
they know what they've got to go and get, and they've got the bat in order to do it. But yeah, so we executed the game plan perfectly. We bowled really well, kept them to 170 odd or whatever it was, and Housley and Josh just, as you say, to watch that from the dressing room, mate, it was
insane.
surreal. It really was. It was just amazing to see him. pick them apart, and to see them kind of disintegrate towards the end was quite nice.
Yeah, another team that I'll never feel sad watching fall apart. You've probably already answered this, to be honest, but what does it feel like to play in a team that's basically like invincible, which that T20, and from the reboot when sort of Owen Morgan, who I
Yeah,
absolutely adore, he decided
yeah,
that we were going to play this way, to create a legacy like they did and you did, playing this way for the T20 and the 50 over game. What's it like playing in a team where you basically know that as long as you're all where you normally are, you're going to destroy
yeah.
everyone?
Yeah, and I think
Must be an incredible
yeah,
feeling.
it was incredible. I think we were there was a period throughout that, 2016 to 2020 probably, or 2021, where we were just in a period where we just knew that if we were to turn up and deliver probably anywhere near 80% of our best, we'd come out on top, which is just an amazing place to be as a team because don't get me wrong, we worked hard at our game. We did a lot of research behind
Absolutely.
what we needed to do. We trained hard. We took training to a whole new level in terms of pushing each other and things like that. But we knew that once we went out there, if we were to get anywhere close to our best, we just destroy teams. And it was such a nice place to be because you knew that, as you said, if not one of you come off, someone else would. And it was just in that sort of period was just a great place to be. And as you said, for almost now, you still kind of feel a bit of a privilege and an honour to have been a part of what is comfortably England's best ever white ball team to have graced the field.
Without question.
Still
Without
doesn't
question.
really probably sink in really to think that I've been a
It'll probably
part
be
of that.
after you retired, won't it, I think?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think there'll be times when we were all retired as a group and look back on that 2019 and 2022 and just relive those memories
Wow.
together will be really nice.
Yeah, I know. I was talking, like you came in, and I was talking to you just before you went to the West Indies, and obviously
Yeah,
I won't dwell on it too much, but the last World Cup, it was a disappointment, and I'm sure all the
yeah,
players would say it was a disappointment, and it didn't go anywhere near what you would have all hoped to have done. And I'm on social media, and I'm just a fan, so I can reply to a lot
yeah,
of the negativity that was being thrown
yeah,
about. And my point of view has always been that teams, not just cricket teams, but all kinds of teams, are cyclical. And it just happened that I think that team's coming towards the end of its cycle, and the fact they've won 2 World Cups, I think you can't take your mind off that. It is a
yeah.
phenomenal team, and it didn't work out for whatever reason. Would you like to say anything on that?
Yeah, I think with regards to the World Cup, we kind of went in, with high hopes as well.
Yeah,
I think in a way we kind of made a bit of a rod for our own back by being,
yeah,
so good over that long period of time, over a 6, 7, 8 year window where people just expected, and we probably weren't
yeah,
quite where we'd have liked to have been as a team. It'd been nice to have been going into that comp with probably a bit more confidence and a bit more, I suppose, a few more wins under our belt, in that format. And it's not an excuse. There's a lot of reasons as to why we didn't perform well. We as players hold our hands up and we weren't good enough over that particular start of the competition, which stuffed us. But like you said, I think good things all have to come to a close at some point. It just shows how hard World Cups are to win. Very lucky to have won that 2019 and
yeah.
2022, but they're certainly not easy things to win. And
No,
we were below par and got found out, which is it's a shame, but it just means that whenever the next one comes round, it gives you that little bit more hunger to get it right and be up challenging again.
I think that's excellent. Yeah. Right, I've got just the Ashes to talk about this now, and then I don't want to keep
Yeah,
you
yeah, of
too long.
course.
This year's Ashes, obviously.
Yeah,
The first 2 tests, for people that don't know, you didn't play in,
yeah,
and we lost them both. Although I do think we could have won both of them as well. I think it was such an
yeah,
amazing test series. So a couple of questions about the first 2 tests. I know you wasn't, playing in them, but the declaration was a massive talking point at
yeah,
Edgbaston.
yeah,
Your thoughts on that?
yeah.
And it took really an amazing innings from Pat Cummins to win it at the end. So I think we could have won that, to be honest. So what were your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think with the declaration, I think it was, it's easy to look back on it in hindsight and think, it was, a bit of a road decision, and easy to say it was the wrong decision. But what has got that team to where it is by making those sorts of decisions. Decisions where Stokes really believes in them. And I think where Stokes' head was at was, I'm going to declare here, because I think he actually did, and he will happily me saying this as well, is he did kind of double like sort of guess himself, and he thought to himself, should I or shouldn't I do it? And I think what made him go through with it was, he was like, if it was any other game or any other team bar Australia and an Ashes series, would I do it?
Yeah.
And the answer was yes. And he was like, well, I'm not going to play it any other way. Then I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm going to do it. And I think his thinking was always the positive spin of it, which was, look, we're going to get 5 or 6 overs
wickets tonight.
At Warner. Broady's going to nick him off, and it's
as
going
usual.
to put them on, exactly, and put them on the back foot from day one. He just thought we'd 100% do that, and naturally, when it doesn't happen, it's easy to sit on that side of the fence and say it was a poor decision, but he's happy to live by it. He's happy to put his hand up and say, look, I made the decision. It didn't work. We move on. And that's what's served the Test team well since he's taken over. So, if that's the one mistake he's made, then he's happy to hold it.
I'm totally with you, and I backed the team. I went to 3 out of the 5 Test matches this summer. I enjoyed every minute of it, and I fully back England, and I do it on Twitter. I back them to the hilt, even when I probably shouldn't be. I back them, and I thought it was the right decision. I totally understand why he did it, and as I say, it was only an amazing innings from Pat Cummins at the end of the day that won it for them. And the same with the second Test at Lords. Stokes unbelievable, 155, I think it was, and they went on to lose that game, unfortunately. So when you got brought in at Headingley, what was the sort of pre-match Headingley, knowing we were 2 down in a 5-match series? Again, I probably know what the answer is, but the way of going about it was exactly the same as we went about it the first 2 Tests, and just carry on.
Yeah, that's it. I think that, as you touched on with Brendan and Stokesy, it was, we've lost 2 games in cricket. We're not going to change the way we're playing here. Obviously they made a couple of changes from a personnel point of view. I came in, Woody came in, but the message was still clear. We play exactly the same way. We take the aggressive option, and I think there was a sense of feeling and within the dressing room that even though we were 2-0 down, and as you've probably touched on there, we probably shouldn't have been, and it felt like we're doing the right things here. We're not far off. We could easily be on the right side of those results, and if we play anywhere near we have been, but maybe with a couple of moments that go our way, we can get one over on the Aussies here. And that was the message, mate, really, other than the changes, was to go out there, play the way we are, and keep putting them on the back foot. And I think we'd clearly rattled their cage, even though they were 2-0 up, with the way they were going about their business in terms of the fields they were setting. They were constantly on the defensive side of things. And I think Brendan in particular was like, the tide's going to change. He was convinced that this tide, in terms of results, is going to change, and just stick to the guns, stick to the process. And he was right, wasn't he?
It wasn't a tide, mate. It was a tsunami, and that tsunami was called Mark Wood and Chris Woakes. That's what changed the
that's
tide.
the thing. Woody keeps doing it. Whenever he did an interview after the Ashes, he was just like, "Well, me and Woakes have won 2-0, so that's all that matters."
That's it. Yeah, you could just say 2-0, can't. But again, I was in the stands when Woody had that first spell. I have never seen anything like that in my life. I've been going to watch cricket for many years. I started watching it with my granddad, started watching it with me. I have never seen a spell like that in my life. I mean, I'm not nowhere near professional cricketer. Never have been, never will be. But would you want to face him when he's bowling like that?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I have no interest.
Just ridiculous.
I mean, 95 mile an hour is something less. I'll try and give you a bit of perspective on the difference between speeds. Is when someone bowls, roughly my sort of speed, which is between 80 and 85 mile an hour, roughly most of the time. Maybe 86, 87 on a really good day.
Go on,
but roughly around that. The difference between bowling 80 and 85 is, there's obviously 5 mile an hour difference, and you can tell the difference. But when someone goes up to 90 and to 95, that gap, the 5 mile an hour feels like 15.
Yeah.
It really does make it feel so fast in comparison to bowling at 85 or 90. And like you said, I think I would really, push anyone who's not been to a game of cricket before and maybe
Yeah.
doesn't overly, like it, or
Yeah.
maybe they do like it but haven't been to a live game. I would
Yeah.
really suggest them to
Go.
get down to a live game because the speed of the game, watching it live, is completely different to watching
Totally
it on
agree.
TV. TV slows everything down and makes it look almost relatively easy, doesn't it? Football
Yeah.
is very simple. The speed of the game is ridiculous.
Do you know what? One of the first things that I noticed when I went to my first game at Warwick, I'm a Warwickshire fan, you Bears,
Yeah.
was it wasn't the pace bowlers
Okay.
pace. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
the spinners.
Spin
How
pace.
quick the
Yeah.
spinners went. Because you just on telly, you just think they're just this little
Yeah.
low
Just
pin,
oh,
boom, and it's going to be
yeah.
down, bounce. And the spin, I like Moeen
Yeah.
Ali and Adil Rashid, one of my favourite bowlers
Yeah.
of all time. The speed that ball comes down and it's spinning
Yeah.
on the telly, you don't get that perception, do you, of it?
Perspective.
And that
Yeah.
was one of the,
Completely different perception. You're right. It's there's still, if you side on watching a spinner bowl live, you still barely see it, don't you? You still barely see the
yeah.
ball really. So yeah, it's definitely it's quicker than people think.
So one other thing that happened in the Ashes, I keep saying quickly, I'm so sorry for keeping you
That's
this
all
long.
right, mate. It's
Um,
absolutely fine. Talk about the
um,
Ashes all day long if you want
yeah,
to.
was the Bairstow Carey stumping?
Yeah, of course. Where do I
How was
sit with it?
Johnny? How did
Yeah,
you sit with it? And did Johnny want to rip his head off afterwards?
yeah. I mean, Johnny sees red mist pretty easily as well, so it
Yeah,
couldn't
I
have
was going to
happened
say,
to a worse player, really. But I actually, so I was there for day one of the Test match, and obviously didn't play in the game. So I actually went home. Brendan was like, go and get a couple of days at home, do your training at Edgbaston, and spend some time at home, which was really, again, good man management from his side of things. So I missed the incident really, especially obviously it wasn't at Lords, and I actually
yeah,
I turned my phone on and Twitter was going nuts. I was like, what the hell's going on here, sort of thing. Obviously watched it back, and I think the thing that kind of doesn't help Johnny is the build up. So kind of he was clearly doing it for an over or two prior, and they were
yeah,
kind of basically waiting for him to make a
do it
mistake,
again.
and he almost were like they'd warned him almost in a way, which didn't help his case. Because let's face it, in the rules of the game,
Yeah,
he's out. He's
it's a
out.
dismissal.
The
Yeah,
only
fair
thing that
dismissal.
I would, and this is the side I sit on it, I think the umpire should have taken it out of the captain's hands in the first place and said that it was dead ball, because there's a still
Yes,
of
yes, I've
when
seen that. Yeah,
Carey is about to release the ball, the umpire grabs the bowler's cap,
he's passing
and
it back. Yeah.
and in my eyes, that for me is dead ball. The game's dead, the over's dead, and you're moving on between overs. So, in my eyes, I think the umpire's made a bit of a mistake there. From Pat Cummins' point of view, I don't blame him for just cracking on and effectively saying the rules are the rules, stay in your ground. I
We
don't
won't
think I'd
talk
like
about
to
the
see.
spirit of cricket. I think we'll leave that one.
Yeah, I think it opens up a can of worms, doesn't it? It really does.
Yeah.
But in
It
rules of the game,
ignited the Ashes, though, didn't it?
yeah. Well, if anything, I think it just not that it needs to, but I think it put a little bit more fire in our
It
belly
helped us.
somehow.
Yeah.
Absolutely helped us, and I think a few of their players were rattled by it a little bit, especially Carey. I think knowing I don't know him really well, but he's actually a
No.
really nice fella, and I think obviously he copped it after that moment, and I think it did rattle him a little bit.
Yeah, so we move on to the fourth test, Old Trafford. Again, I was there, and I was lucky enough to see another fantastic innings. Zach Crawley's 189.
Yeah.
This series, honestly, it was amazing. I know it ended up as a draw, but for people that, like you said, that don't follow cricket, and I get it a lot, and I think it's looked down upon by a lot of people. 5 days and it's a draw,
Yeah.
Ashes cricket and Test cricket is for me the best form of the game, and I love T20s. I love the blast. I love one days. But this series had everything that you could want. It was
It really
drama.
was.
It was theatre every day. So getting into a position where we should and we would have gone on to win the game. You was
Yeah,
fantastic in that game as well. 36 first innings, very important runs again, 3 wickets. The Warner wicket, which is always great, isn't it? To see him
yeah.
trotting back.
Enjoy
Then you
game
got
one.
then you got Warner, Khawaja, Smith, and Stark in the second innings. Crawley's innings. How frustrating was it then to have rain stop play and sort of
Yeah, frustrating, mate. Really, really frustrating. I think, um, I think that's the only one thing from the Ashes you look back and think, God, if we could have just got out there for another half a day or so, or the weather hadn't have, you know, affected the game, we could have been, sat there winners of an Ashes series, having been 2-0 down. It really would have been one for the ages, wouldn't it? And I
yeah.
think that's the only sort of regret. You just feel a little bit hard done by, but that's the way it goes. There's been many series in the past where we've probably got away with a draw when it's
Yeah,
rained and you
it's
get away with
benefiting.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, so you just have to take it on the chin. That's the English weather, in particular the Manchester weather. So um, it's just unfortunate, isn't it? But yeah, we were devastated. I've never really felt a dressing room so flat actually after that day
yeah,
5, and it had rained pretty much all day, and then the game was called off because obviously the Aussies at that point retained the Ashes, didn't they?
yeah.
And I think it just felt like they didn't really deserve it. But
No,
and obviously the dressing rooms at Old Trafford, they're they're relatively close. You can kind of hear each other's
right.
dressing rooms, not from speaking, but if people are shouting around. And when the decision was made, their dressing room, there was a load of cheers and a load of woos and
Uh,
stuff, and it was just like it just didn't go down. It didn't sit well with us, the fact
you
that
should have sent Bairstow in.
yeah. No, I think he'd got himself in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, pretty arrested. Yeah, I mixed up these on my notes. It was the fifth test when you scored the 36.
Oh,
So at that point we got to the fifth test and we needed then to win that to save the series
yeah,
to be the 2-2. And you did score 36 in the first innings, 3 wickets and 4 wickets in the second innings.
yeah,
What a fantastic end! I mean, I've got to bring him up, Stuart Broad.
yeah,
How on earth do you write that script? I mean, I've got it up there. I don't know if you can see that
yeah.
there.
It's brilliant.
I
Yeah,
was at Trent Bridge
was that
when
his
he
eight
got
for
his
15?
8 for 15, and that's my
Yeah,
picture with
amazing.
him there. I stood for an hour and a half while he did about 700 interviews with the press from all over the world that day. What an unbelievable cricketer he is. I
Yeah,
mean, what a way to
amazing.
go out as well.
I
What it
mean,
must
it's
be the
just
dream to again, Chris, you've shared the pitch with
yeah.
on an iconic day. What was that like?
Yeah, and that day was still my. People say to me, what was your favourite day of the Ashes series this year? And people expect me to say Headingley, obviously hitting those winning runs and getting us over
Yeah,
the line at Headingley. But for me, that final day at the Oval was just as good as atmosphere as I've had in England. Obviously, we had the Broady sort of send off. I obviously bowled great, but me and Mo, I think me and Mo and Ali took like 4 or 5 wickets in the space of 5 overs,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
they were
yeah,
cruising. They were cruising. I think they needed like 120 to win at one point. And me and
yeah,
Mo, obviously being both Birmingham lads, played a
yeah,
lot of cricket together. It was Mo's last Test match as well before he
yeah. Of
officially
course, yeah.
retired. It just the atmosphere when we were taking those wickets over after over in tandem. That's as good as nearly as good as I felt on a cricket field. I think, apart from winning the World Cup, it was just absolutely amazing to turn them over and have that sort of afternoon where it was just kind of almost the series and the Ashes are fully gone, and we just managed to turn it around. And as you say, for Broady to write his scripts and just to change the bails and then get his ball the last
Danny
wicket as the
Biles, yes, good.
him bowling last
You'll have to
wicket.
try that, Chris.
Uh,
Now he's retired.
oh
That's
no,
your job now.
no,
Next time it's
absolutely
not
not.
going
He's
right.
he's
Just
he's
trips fail.
that's his moment, mate. I don't
He's
think anyone
cornered that. Yeah, yeah.
can do
Fair
it.
enough.
Yeah.
When did he? Did you all have an inkling he was going to retire, or did you not know? And
Um,
did he just come in the dressing room and tell everyone? I presume he told probably Brendan and Stokesy first, and then
yeah, I think he told
was it
Brendan and
announced?
Stokesy the night before. There was a little bit of talk the week before as to whether Jimmy or Broady would retire. I knew Jimmy
Jimmy's
wouldn't
never going
because I
to
think
retire. He'll be
exactly Jimmy
55 and
wants to.
still playing.
Jimmy will be running walking in with a Zimmer frame before he retires. Um, but yeah, I think there was a little bit of talk, but no one heard anything, so they were just like, oh, maybe he's just going to carry on. And then mid-test match, in the morning, he kind of called everyone in before the start of play and said that it was going to be his last match. And he got a little bit emotional actually, which I've never ever seen Stu get emotional. So obviously he thought long and hard about it, but what a way for him to go out! Incredible, an amazing servant to English cricket, one of the legends, and I feel very grateful, as you say, to have witnessed not only that day and be a part of it, but also to share the field with him for a lot of his or a lot of my Test career has been fully part of his. So amazing.
So moving up to present day, we've nearly finished. You're obviously in the West Indies. We are currently, as it sits, 2-1 down with 2 to play. I think one's tomorrow and one's Thursday.
Right.
I think
one's tomorrow, one's Thursday.
Yeah. You've got as well, Chris. You've got Freddie Flintoff with you at the moment, haven't you?
That's right, mate. Yeah.
How is he? Firstly, hopefully he doesn't mind me asking. And the other one is, what's it like having him around?
Yeah, incredible, mate. It's been amazing to have him around. Honestly, really incredible. He's one of my sort of heroes. Really, growing up watching the game, he was firmly at the forefront of the England team at the time, and so many fond memories of him, doing what he did for England. So to have him around the group, mate, has been amazing. Just listening to his stories, little nuggets of wisdom. He's just, and he speaks so well as well. I think having sort of a character like him with such an aura about him, he's been brilliant to have around, and the lads are really enjoying him having around. And he is just like, honestly, infectious. For a guy infectious personality, but also he's just so happy to be here. Like he's just, he's almost in awe of us as well, which I find incredible. The player he is, the career he had. I look at him as being one of the greats, and he's almost in awe of us as players, which I find that hard to fathom. But a great man, and obviously with what he's been through in the last,
absolutely.
12 months or so, I think it's just he's delighted to be here, and we're obviously delighted to have him. Man, I'm just going to stick a light on because I think
you disappear into the background.
The sun's going down. The sun's going down in.
Sun's going down the West Indies. It's tough. It's tough for a top flight cricketer. Hey,
is that a bit better?
That's fine. Yeah, we've nearly done now. I promise we've nearly done. Yeah, I'm a massive Freddie. Again, look at that. That's one of my Freddie Flintoff sign balls there.
Yeah, amazing.
I love the bloke. I wish him all the best from me. From what he's been through. I hope he's a permanent fixture for the England team, because I think he's a phenomenal addition to that as well. And just want to thank you for coming on, Chris. I really appreciate it. You're a top bloke. You're always welcome in the spud shop for a spud. You know that.
Always. Great feed in there, just quietly. Always feels good. Nice.
Yes, I think what we need to get is a Ted's shirt for underneath your shirt when you next score or get a hat trick. So good luck for the rest of the series. I hope you can turn it around, and I hope you play in both the games, hopefully.
Thanks, mate.
And then good luck for the rest of the season with Warwickshire. You presume you're coming back. What does the you few months hold for you now after you come back and then get ready for the new season with Warwick?
Yeah, so actually, I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? The current sort of climate in terms of cricket schedule around the world. You can play anywhere you want, really. As long as someone's willing to have you. So obviously, I'm not in the India tests in the new year. So I'm going out to Dubai and playing in the T20 league there. Nice. In fact, the IPL auction is tomorrow, which I will know if I get picked up there. So then that's through March and April time.
Just cutting in, sorry, the IPL auction. Do you get any inkling that you're going to be picked up, or is it literally just put yourself in and that's it? Do you have? Do they contact you and say, "Do you fancy?" I know you've played for 2 or 3 of the teams, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. I've done 3 seasons in the IPL, 3 different teams, and it's an incredible experience playing cricket in India. It really is. It's just absolutely carnage. But so your agent does a bit of digging and speaks to teams, and they kind of give you a little bit of an inkling, but they don't give too much away, really.
No,
they don't like to give too much about their, too much on who they're after. Yeah, so you kind of just have to wait and see, really, see who sticks the paddle up.
You're hopeful,
or who doesn't. I mean, I'm obviously hopeful that I'll get a team, and I'll get picked up by someone. who knows who by. And but if I don't, then it means that I'll be back in the UK starting the season with Warwickshire. So either way, mate, it's a win-win.
It's fantastic. Well, hopefully I'll catch you at some point down at Warwick next season.
Yeah, mate.
I'll definitely catch you when you get back, and let's hope we can make it an Aston Villa Warwickshire Championship double for
Mate,
next season.
what a year that would
That's
be!
the
What
dream,
a year
eh?
that would be!
So thanks ever
You
so
heard
much,
it here
Chris.
first.
You heard it here first on Up the Villa podcast. Appreciate your time, Chris. Good luck for the rest of the series, and thanks for joining us.
Cheers, Justin. Thanks for having me on, mate. Love